Yes, last hour, winding into the weekend. I'm told that Jaqui is online and I can grab her anytime I want. No, there's an invitation. There's an invitation, Jack. I can grab you
Hey,
anytime I want.
wonderful. Looking forward to it.
How far are we away from each other? Is it 1,200 miles or 1,200 kilometres? I've never quite worked that one out.
No, I don't know. I don't know. But, across an ocean.
Yes, across an ocean. Actually, on that, Jack, my local MP, who's a backbench national MP, doesn't get a lot of coverage, I have to say, but he is complaining that he can fly from Queenstown to Sydney faster and easier and cheaper than he can fly from Queenstown to Wellington. There you go. No wonder so many New Zealanders are heading your way.
Well, and I think probably the reverse is also true, that it's cheaper to fly from Sydney to Queenstown and easier than it is to fly from Sydney to, the Gold Coast or up north on a holiday. In fact, I do it quite often because it's cheaper.
Oh, there you go. And can I ask, do you have a monopoly sector for your domestic aircraft in Australia?
Oh, pretty much. We've got Qantas and Virgin, and it's a bit of an issue because we've had a couple of airlines try to develop regional routes,
Yeah.
but they've consistently gone bust. And so the government's just recently bailed one out to the tune of, I think, $60 million, so that regional towns, which are not insubstantial, can have an air service. It's a big
What
issue.
sort of regional towns are we talking about? We're talking about a place like Noosa
Oh,
and Mackay and those
no,
sorts of places.
not so much. Well, yeah, partly Coffs Harbour, more
Oh, really?
inland, Dubbo, Wagga, Armidale. Kind of anything out west, basically from the coast. It's very difficult to get flights, and they're really super expensive.
Mm, mm, mm. There you go. Listen, have you had an election date yet? Have you got one
No,
yet?
no. Albo got dudded by Alfred. So
Oh, is that?
we had a cyclone here called Cyclone Alfred that was originally going to be called Anthony, but they thought the Bureau of Met thought that was a bit on the nose because we've got Anthony Albanese, so they chose Alfred instead. Um, so Alfred was bearing
Alfred or
down on
Albert?
Albert. Sorry, Albert,
Yeah.
was it Albert? One of them, one of the A's. So Albo was going to call the election last weekend, and he pulled the
I
pin
see. Right.
because 4 million people were facing a
Yeah.
cyclone that turned up not to be a cyclone after all.
So that doesn't stop him announcing it this weekend, though.
Oh no, he could well announce it. Yeah, I hope so, because
Well, it's
the
Formula One.
electioneering has started already. So can he just
Yeah.
call it,
Yeah.
and we get on with it?
Yeah. So, what's the time from when you call it to when the election is? Is it 4, 6, 8 weeks? What's the minimum?
Yeah, I'm
You
taking a
don't
punt
know.
here.
No,
Five
it's all right.
weeks.
5 weeks. Okay.
Too
Take it.
long.
Take a punt on something else.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, actually, on that, I know that there's Formula One. Well, Mania is probably a good one. I called it a cult. Motorsport's a cult as a general rule, but Formula One starts in Melbourne. Obviously, there's a Kiwi involved. Are there any Australians in any of the teams? Do you know?
Yeah, Oscar Piastri's in there.
Oh, okay.
He's,
Well, there you go.
yeah,
Who does
God
he
knows why.
race for?
He now races for Ferrari, I think. Oh, maybe no, that was somebody else. I don't know who. I don't
No,
follow it. I don't
McLaren.
know who.
He's
There you go.
he's, he's,
I don't
he's
know
for,
who he races.
no, he's racing for McLaren. I've just looked that up. He's the same age as Liam Lawson. He's 23.
There you go. Yeah.
And no, the interesting thing is that, of course, McLaren is the origins of that is the New Zealander Bruce McLaren, isn't it? The
Yes.
constructors
Yeah. Who then went over to England, and what I
and
have
died.
caught up. Yeah, that's right, as people do.
Mm.
But
No,
yeah,
he
so
got killed in a. Listen. You won't remember this because you're younger than I am, but Bruce McLaren, Chris Amon, Denny Holm They were all the same sort of generation. And Bruce McLaren was very young when he died. He was only, oh God, about 32.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He got killed in a race or driving for a race or something like that. And then he had, I'm not sure if he'd already started a racing team, which became the McLaren team. And then, yeah, here it goes. He died at 32, 1970, June 1970. Where were you in June 1970, Jack? You would have been at school in Palmerston North, would you?
Exactly right.
At primary school.
Yep.
Anyhow, isn't it interesting? So there's the irony of all this. So that legacy of Bruce McLaren leading to the McLaren racing team has got an Australian driver in called Piastri, who's exactly the same age as Liam Lawson, who's racing for Red Bull. Will you be watching it yourself?
No, I'm not a Formula One follower myself, although I must say, when I was staying with my brother Ross, who I think you might know, out of Wellington a while back, he's a mad keen Formula One person. So I actually sat and watched some of the races with him, and I can see why people get into it. It's quite fascinating. But no, I'm not going to be watching it.
We had Greg Murphy, the New Zealand Bathurst champion, for a number of times on the show this morning, talking about Liam Lawson. He's just flying. He was flying out from Auckland today to go to the Grand Prix, and he mentioned the huge costs that are associated with hosting a Grand Prix in Melbourne. He was also talking about the fact that you're probably going to get that cost back in economic gain. Is Melbourne? It's been in Adelaide before, but is Melbourne bid for these kind of events because it does see itself as the sporting capital of Australia?
It likes to see itself as the sporting capital of Australia. The fact that it's almost bankrupt seems to completely go over the top of the politicians who keep blowing all this money on the basis that it delivers, great economic benefit. That coming from the Allen government that's so far down the sewer pipe of debt, it's not funny. But as I said to someone yesterday, I think the Melbourneites and Victoria need something to look forward to because they're having such a crappy time.
Why are they having a crappy time? Is it because of?
Well, because their economy's shot because their government's just got so much debt. They're raising taxes and land taxes, and they had the longest lockdowns of anyone in the world. So I think they've all got a bit of Stockholm syndrome going on. It's not a happy state. The
Okay.
state of Victoria is not in a happy state.
It's run by is it run by a Labor government? Is that right? It's got a Labor state
Yeah,
government?
the premier used to be Daniel Andrews, who we all dubbed Dictator Dan.
Mm.
And then when he finally fell on his sword because he was just so bad, Jacinta Allen, who was the Minister of Transport, then took over, and she's worse. So, but
How,
yeah,
how can you find somebody worse? If you don't mind me asking,
well,
how
very,
can that happen?
very, very easily because it's a bit of a Labor Party backroom deal who gets the premiership, and it's just really bad economic management, and it's a issue for the whole country really because it's the second biggest state, and well, might not be anymore. Queensland might be, but it's got so it's got huge issues, and they're not really dealing with them, and they've banned onshore gas exploration, and they've got an energy shortage, and they're going to have brownouts. I mean, whatever way you look at it, they're not run well as a state, and haven't been for a long time.
So I'm assuming that what you're saying to me is that Victoria is a pretty woke state.
Yeah, and it's pretty badly managed, and the real challenge there is that the opposition Liberals have been so bad that they really haven't put up a decent alternative for Victorians to vote for, which is a real shame.
Yes, and on that, just can I say, I read, I think in the Sydney Morning Herald or the Australian, or both of them this week, the fact that there is a suggestion that the opposition leader, Dutton, is in actual fact inconveniencing the Liberals by his leadership at the moment. There's some talk about a leadership spill. Can you give me some background to that?
Look, I've read that. I don't think there's much substance to it, quite frankly.
Mm.
I think there's people just stirring, the media just stirring something. He comes out and says what he says about Trump and nuclear and various things, and you're never going to miss what Peter Dutton thinks. He's very clear. So I guess it leaves people who don't like that opportunity to try and wind it up and see if anything floats.
Okay. And just on that, can I ask your media? We in New Zealand, if you said left, right, middle, to do with media and their interpretations of things, and particularly politically, is the Sydney Morning Herald regarded as left of centre, in the middle? How does that rate with ABC, your local sort of equivalent of, I guess, Radio New Zealand? Um, what, how are the media in Australia perceived in terms of that
Uh,
spectrum, Jack?
okay, so Sydney Morning Herald left of centre, ABC kind of left of centre, anything Murdoch, News Corporation, well, we know where they sit. So that's the Australian Courier Mail, some various things.
So they're right of centre.
Korea, right, more right of centre than most. And then you have some smaller independent, publications that would be, quite kind of left. But your mainstream ones are pretty kind of left of centre, and the TV stations probably as much as you can fairly down the middle.
So, and that was the next question I was going to ask. I'm on the understanding that is it Channel 9 your primary entertainment or commercial free-to-air television network over there?
We've got 9, 7, and 10, which
Right.
are the three commercial ones. Nine is Fairfax, so they are, so they're kind of middle centre ish. Channel 7's owned by Kerry Stokes, West Australian billionaire, so he's probably a bit right centre, but I'm not sure he has not much interest in dictating that. But certainly you've got News Corp that has the Herald Sun and Courier Mail and some local newspapers. Doesn't
Where
have
does Sky
TV.
News fit on this over there?
Yeah, Sky News, very, very right.
Yeah,
That's
but
where
where
all
are they owned by who?
news.
Right. Okay. So
Yep.
they're owned by the same people who own what? Are they Murdoch? Are they
Fox, yeah. Yeah,
Fox? Yeah.
yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So I guess well, the reason I asked you that question is that if I was an Australian, I've got a range of media outlets that cover my spectrum. Whereas I don't know if we could say that in New Zealand amongst our mainstream media, but you do seem to have covered your bases better over there.
Look, I would say so, and I subscribe to most of them. So
Hmm.
because I want to get a diversity of opinion. If you only subscribe to one of them or didn't subscribe at all, you wouldn't really get a great deal of diversity.
Mm.
So you have to make an effort, but I guess that's with anything in life. You've got to make an effort if you actually want to be informed.